With that, I'd like to introduce Judge Janet Holmgren, the president of the Illinois Association of Problem-Solving Courts, and Matt Kinder, the conference coordinator. Welcome to Justice Speaks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, I'd like to start by asking you to tell me a little about yourself.
Well, I've been on the bench for almost 29 years now. In
That's
16,
a long time.
it's a very long time. And I'm thinking that you've got maybe a better perspective on things being retired and traveling as you are, but I'll get there eventually, I suppose. But
It's quite wonderful, let me tell you.
okay. For 16 of those years, I have been exclusively in problem-solving courts. And for 5 of those years, I was the chief judge of our judicial circuit here in Illinois. My jurisdiction is in Northern Illinois, in Rockford, Illinois. And the 17th Circuit consists of Winnebago County and Boone County. In our Winnebago County, we started a drug court back in 1996.
You were the early adopters then.
Yes, we were one of the first jurisdictions in Illinois to start a drug court. And in 2005, that was joined by our adult mental health court called the Therapeutic Intervention Program, or TIP Court. And when I became chief judge of our circuit in 2007, I took over the responsibility of presiding in TIP Court. And so since that time, I have not really looked back on doing anything conventional anymore.
Well,
I did have the opportunity to establish a veterans court and a family recovery court in abuse and neglect court, as well as a youth recovery court, which is for kids in our delinquency system with behavioral health issues. So we've expanded our court footprint to include those problem-solving courts here in Winnebago County.
So let me ask you, what did you do before you became a judge? How did you become a lawyer?
I worked for a few years in just the private sector. I was a civil litigator, and for not on the criminal side, but on civil side, doing medical malpractice, defense work, and some plaintiffs work as well. Primarily, I had more of a generalist background earlier in my career, so I was a lawyer for 10 years before I became appointed as an associate judge, and then in 1998 I was elected to our circuit bench, where I've served since.
Are you originally from Illinois?
I'm originally from Rockford, Illinois.
Wow. So you've been basically there your whole life. Is that right?
Except for the 4 years that I went to the University of Denver.
Oh, well, where you learned to ski, no doubt.
I honed my skills. Yes, I did.
Yes. Well, there's a difference between the hills in Illinois and the mountains in Colorado.
Ever so slightly.
Yeah. So Matt, let me turn to you. Tell me a little about yourself.
Yeah. So I am a licensed clinical social worker. So coming at this from the treatment side of things, I've been in clinical practice of some description for coming on 15 years now. I started kind of my awareness of treatment courts or problem-solving courts probably about 10 to 12 years ago now. I was working at an agency that provides 24-hour assisted living for adults with serious and persistent mental illness. And some of those clients were also involved in Judge Holmgren's mental health court. And so I was working as their treatment provider and would bring them into court and testify to the judge how they were doing in the treatment side of things. A few years go by and had an opportunity to join a training organization that unfortunately no longer exists, the Illinois Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health and Justice. And in that role, we went around the state and worked with the problem-solving courts around the state to do kind of tune-ups, individualized to the courts. So we would go to each county and train them on what they needed to be trained on. And then we worked with the Illinois Association of Problem-Solving Courts to coordinate their conference annually. So that's how I got introduced more into the association role. Unfortunately, that organization lost its grant funding, and so I had to find a new role. So I went into private practice. However, Judge Holmgren and the board of directors reached out to me and another conference coordinator and asked us if we would continue our role working on the conference because the board is volunteer board of judges and lawyers and people that don't have time to coordinate a conference. So they asked us to continue that, and I've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah, time flies.
It does.
Well, let's turn to that. It sounds like both of you became involved in problem-solving courts fairly early on. The judge, when did you first do a problem-solving court docket? Was it in 1996?
No. My actual problem-solving court, like drug court or mental health court, was in 2007. But I guess earlier in my career, I was the presiding judge in our juvenile abuse and neglect courtroom, where again, the focus is very similar to the treatment court focus of rehabilitation and remediation of safety issues such as substance abuse or mental illness that's under treated or not treated at all. So that was my background there, but not until 2007 when I took over the adult mental health court was I actually in a committed treatment court rotation.
Mental health courts are hard. They're perhaps the most complicated of all the specialty courts that I know of.
I would agree with that. I really feel that I was fortunate to start there because as you said, it is complicated, and I think you're confronted with, every nuance of every issue when you're presiding in a mental health court. And so when I took over our adult drug court, it actually seemed easier. It's not.
I don't think it is. I had that experience myself when I went from Michigan. We called DWI drug courts sobriety courts, and I had a long-standing sobriety court. And I started a veterans court. That was the second specialty court I started. And I thought it was going wonderful. I thought it was easier. I thought the people were better until the probation officer who'd been in the service says, "Judge, they're conning you." And then he explained all the ways they were tricking me. And at that point, I felt sort of foolish. But yeah, you do get a different sense each docket you do. And each time you think, well, that may be a little easier when it's in fact not.
It's just different.
Yep. Different issues. So, Judge, let me say you're the president of the association. Can you tell us a little about the Illinois Association of Problem-Solving Courts?
Sure. Illinois, I think, has been, as you noted, kind of early into the treatment court realm. In the mid-90s, the drug court professional, let me get the right name, or you can correct me, Matt. There was a drug court association that was started, and one of their primary functions was to promote an annual or every other year conference of drug court professionals. And then in 2007 or 8, I was part of an ad hoc group that met to convene and create the Mental Health Court Association of Illinois. So we had these two organizations that were both kind of structured to do basically the same thing, which was to put on a conference that focused on people in the courts with behavioral health issues. And it became pretty quickly evident that we were duplicating and overlapping in a lot of areas. So the two boards met and we facilitated a merger of the two back in 2013. And with the idea of coalescing the strengths of both organizations in unifying our efforts in going out and soliciting, top quality experts and national experts and international experts to bring to Illinois to train all of our problem-solving court professionals. So that was the origin for the Illinois Problem-Solving Court Association.
Well, oddly, I had the pleasure of being in Illinois for a strategic planning session with the first association. My wife actually did their strategic planning down in, oh, I'm going to blank the name of this state park that you guys meet at. Where?
Oh,
Stark Rock.
Yep, it was actually very nice. I was very surprised by how pleasant that place was. And they were discussing the merger that you're talking about at the time of my wife conducted that strategic planning. So I guess I have a little bit of an understanding of your history from that standpoint. And so let me ask you a little more about this. Do you have members in your association? Is there a way to become a member of the Illinois Association?
And in looking at our bylaws, we just did a bylaw revision, and up until the revision, part of the conference fee, I think for the $30 of the conference fee, we considered a membership fee.
Mhm.
And so when you signed up and paid to attend the annual conference that ILAP sponsors, you became a member. So we did the bylaws revision, and I know that we might still have to do some refining because it doesn't exactly say that by attending our conference, we no longer have a fee, but it doesn't say you're automatically a member. It just talks about all the different ways that the board of directors can decide you're not a member, which I found entertaining when I was reading through it. But, we labor over these things, and then you get down to but looking at a simple question like, how do you join? It's like, we don't tell you that.
Well, most associations that I've interviewed, you become a member of by attending the conference. They also provide for a fee that you can pay separately from attending the conference, but nobody really gets many people who want to do that. So let's turn to your conference then. You have an annual conference, I take it?
We do every October.
Every October. And so tell me a little about it, Matt.
Yeah, so our conference is growing every year. Last year we had just over 500 people attending the conference from all over the state. So it's always a 3-day event in October. Next year it's going to be the 23rd through 25th of 2024. And we bring in nationally known speakers. We bring in local professional presenters as well as local problem-solving court teams to talk about kind of what they've learned and how their program works and can spread their knowledge to other teams that might be just starting. We like to offer networking opportunities. After the second day of the conference, we have a networking event that's provided by one of our sponsors. So it's just kind of a heavy hors d'oeuvres and light music and go around and meet people from around the state that are doing the same job as you are doing. So judges can talk with judges and pick brains, and it allows the opportunity to meet face to face because our state is huge. We've got 102 counties in the state, and geographically, you don't get from north to south very quickly. So this is the only time of the year that a lot of these people will meet each other and have the opportunity to pick each other's brains and ask about, hey, how do you handle this situation in your county? One of the biggest issues in our state, not just geographically, but population-wise. I mean, we have Cook County with 3 million people, and we have little counties in southern Illinois that might have 15,000 people. Mm-hmm. And how do we get those people to talk to each other, the professionals from the large counties to the small counties, and we focus a lot on the resources available in large counties, but there are some things that small counties are doing that I think a lot of our large counties can learn, and they do that in the networking event that we host. So
is networking done as part of the conference, which is to say during the afternoon, or is it done in the evening?
It's in the evening after the final session of the day. Okay. So we'll have a heavy hors d'oeuvres and yeah.
So it runs what, an hour or two?
Yeah, hour and a half or so.
Then it's formally part of the conference.
It is, yeah. It's in the program. It's people are invited by the judge during her announcements. And, we like to draw a lot of attention to it. So,
Well, I actually think this is interesting because I haven't heard of an association formally doing that as part of the conference. And part of the reason we do this podcast is so that people can share ideas and learn. So I think that's really an interesting idea and really helpful to your membership.
It's been really well received as well.
So how can people find out about the conference?
On our website, ilapsk.org, there is a drop-down tab for the conference. They can see the information from last year's conference and the dates. And we don't have the program obviously established yet, but that's well underway. So
Yeah, well,
and we do have a mailing list that people can join. If you go to our website, there will be a pop-up that asks you if you'd like to join the mailing list. And if you join that, then you'll receive all the email updates for any conference news or anything else that we want to share with our membership.
well, we're trying to promote people's attendance at these conferences part of this podcast. So if you send that to us, we'll put it in as part of the written description about the date and time of the conference and how you can find information about it. Okay?
That's great.
All right. What do you do? What other services do you provide besides the conference? Judge?
the conference is truly our primary and overarching focus. We do, to a degree, act as sort of a clearinghouse. And we'll have inquiries made about legislation that's been proposed. We do have a government subcommittee. So we try to keep ourselves informed about what might be happening on the state and national level in terms of legislative changes that could be impacting treatment courts. And we do that mainly, I think, just so topically when we're mapping out our conferences, that we're making sure that we're staying relevant and current with what we're trying to produce and what we're trying to offer to the people who will be attending. So we're an all volunteer organization. I think that's important. We don't have a hired director. So the board really acts as the working arm of the organization. And Matt is our independent contractor conference coordinator. And we have Meredith Stewart, who is our second conference coordinator, and they collaborate together to do the actual nuts and bolts of producing the conference through, from soliciting the speakers and et cetera to hotel management and technology management, et cetera. So
A lot
we're
of
very
work, actually.
narrow. It is a tremendous amount of work.
So it sounds like you take some positions on some bills that relate to treatment courts. Am I correct in that?
We don't necessarily, we don't take a position, but what we try to do is we can inform that this is pending. We're trying to sort of be a Switzerland organization. Again, because we're all volunteers, we all come from different professions. There are restrictions on judicial speech in our state that by being part of an organization that if we cross the line into advocacy could cause difficulty for myself and the other judges who are members.
I get that. I do some national presentations on ethics, and every state's different. You can do some things in Georgia that you can't do in Michigan, that you sort of can do in California. Nobody really think about
Yep.
it in Arizona. So it's very odd how we talk about judicial ethics on a national level, and then when you get into the nitty-gritty of the state, it's always different. So I understand that. So let me then turn to this. What do you think your greatest accomplishment has been as an association, Judge?
I think their greatest accomplishment is the quality of the conference that we produce and have produced since the organizations merged in 2013. And we even, with the the world crashing down in 2020, we did I think an amazing job. Especially we're all amateurs and we're all not this is not our day job. Making a pivot from an in-person conference where in 2019 we had over 600 attendees.
Yep.
And we were anticipating an even larger number come 2020, and then of course COVID brought that to a screeching halt. So
It did for everyone.
I know. But we turned it around. We went to a virtual platform. We negotiated our way out of our in-person conference contracts successfully, and were able to produce a conference that still had an enormous number of attendees and was very well received. And then as a group too, we made the decision in 2021, with COVID still creating great uncertainties, that we were going to do a second year of just virtual, and not put people at risk of either having to cancel the conference or come in person and expose yourself to risk.
Well, and that was certainly a great challenge. I assume it was the greatest challenge you've faced since you started the new association. Is that correct?
Definitely.
So what do you think you can do to improve specialty courts or problem-solving courts in the state of Illinois?
Well, one of the developments in Illinois as well, as you noted, we had problem-solving courts starting in the 90s. It wasn't until 2015, though, that our Supreme Court adopted problem-solving court standards for the state of Illinois. Mm-hmm. And those standards require some minimal education requirements for all team members of an Illinois problem-solving court. So in Illinois, our team members are mandated to be the judge, a court coordinator, prosecutor, defense counsel, probation and treatment, with law enforcement and evaluators being encouraged as members of the teams. And so our conference is the economically available and excellent resource for all our problem-solving courts to have, our team members to have access to the training that's required of them to be a practicing member of a problem-solving court team.
Well, I think, so if I understand what you're saying correctly, it's that you want to improve and grow the conference so that you can help those teams provide better services to the individuals who participate in the problem-solving court. Did I get that right?
Yep, that's a big part of it. We also are closely aligned and partner with the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts, which is the administrative arm of the Supreme Court. So right. We collaborate on educational opportunities, collaborate on creating curriculum, as well as being presenters and available to do training and education for emerging courts or for tune-ups for existing courts, etc.
Yeah, well, and it's an important alliance to have with your association with the administrative arm of the Supreme Court. In some states, that's challenging. And in other states, it's seamless. And I'm not going to ask about that right now. But I do want to ask, where do you see your association within 10 years?
I hope continuing to grow and thrive. We, to date, have consistently had successful conferences. I think we've kept our price point reasonable for people, as I said, to access the trainings that they require and not need to travel to a national conference per se, though those are obviously excellent resources too. We may even be in a position where we have hired staff, and we may be looking at more of a formal kind of training aspect of from the organization, depending on what goals we set for ourselves. If we're content with just making sure that our conference as our work product remains excellent, I see that as, a definite mission for the organization. But Matt already referenced the Center of Excellence, which was a fantastic resource in Illinois, and a real shame that it wasn't able to continue. But that work is still important, and there still is a need and some gaps in, access to TA and training that perhaps ILAPS can fill.
So I expect that means Matt's going to have to work harder. Am I right about that, Matt?
He may have to give up his day job.
Which one?
Well, listen, I want to thank you both for coming on Justice Speaks. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you, and I wish you the best of the new year.
Thank you so much.
You too.
Invitation. It's been a pleasure.